make it official. Letting the sound of the bell come to our ears. And taking some time to begin to settle in place, letting us find our noble seat. Having appreciation and gratitude to enlightened beings, to the Buddha who became enlightened and shared the teachings, and the Buddhas before the most recent Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha. There were several of them before him for generations and eons of time. And we also pay homage to the Dhamma, the teachings that were passed down. As we said, they might be simple, but they're not easy. And they've gotten complicated in various other realms of how it gets taught, but teachings of suffering and the causes of suffering and the relief of suffering, and giving us the opportunity to see for ourselves the constant changing nature of things, especially when we grasp onto them and want them to be different. And we also pay homage to the Sangha, to those that went before us, to each other in this circle, to other many Sanghas around us and all over the country, all over the world, from generation to generation, and the privilege that we have for being born human, so that we have the opportunity to be present with what is, and to see clearly what arises and passes, and to see it with mindfulness and awareness. And so we do that. We gather ourselves. We can sometimes start by focusing on the breath. It seems to be the most evident thing. We might feel it at the nostrils or the belly. We might take a couple of long breaths to just let the air fall out and just let ourselves settle where we are without expectations, without demands. Perhaps let a little relaxation flow through the body. Notice what's happening behind the eyes and at the forehead. Letting the face relax, the temples. If there's tension in the face, we use our faces so much in our lives. Just allowing this in-breath and out-breath to flow through us and down into the earth. Relaxing, letting gravity be our friend, and relaxing at the jaw, the tongue, the throat. Letting the shoulders relax, and noticing the diaphragm, the lungs. Noticing our skin and our muscles wrapped around our rib cage as we breathe, just being present. We may notice pressure in the diaphragm when we inhale. And there may be release of that pressure on the exhale. Grounding our sits bones into the chair or the cushion wherever we're sitting. Letting ourselves settle into gravity and the container of our body, container of our breath in our bodies. And we may also feel this kind of relaxation energy flowing through our legs and our feet, wherever we might be touching the floor with our feet or with our ankles, however we're sitting. Noticing pressure at the feet, noticing touch points in the body. We can notice pressure at the buttocks on the cushion. Grounding ourselves in the body, using the body as an anchor. Being aware of the breath as it rises and falls, and letting our attention for a while, however long you want to, be at one of those places at the nostrils or the belly or a touch point, to allow for some concentration to develop as we just notice what's happening at a single point. We can use the single object. And we can notice sensations there of heat and coolness, pressure. There might be spaciousness. We may notice tingling. Just choosing for a while the single object of attention and being present, letting mindfulness arise in its neutral state, letting awareness be present to see what exactly is happening. We can make a soft, gentle note of coolness or heat, of pressure. We can remind ourselves when we float off and can't remember what we're doing or get lost in thought patterns. We can just wake up in that moment, asking ourselves, what is happening now? What is the attitude of the mind? That very moment is a wakeful moment. It's a moment of freedom. Mindfulness is there, awareness is there. We're present with whatever's happening. Without having expectations of what's happening. being present. We may wish to have an intention during our sitting period of being kind to ourselves, or noticing mindfulness arise whenever we can. Or we might have the intention of ending suffering in our lives, end it in our life and help others end suffering in their lives. Letting our hearts settle and rest. Maybe we want to be fully present. Or nurture wisdom. Be generous with ourselves and others. Cultivate integrity and respect. Practice sila. So this is all inclining the mind toward the skillful. Sometimes we can notice that we wander off into one of the hindrances of sleepiness, tiredness, sloth, and torpor. There may be restlessness that arises, agitation in the mind, or there's grasping at something that's happening in the mind that we want to continue, or pushing away something maybe in the body that's uncomfortable. There may be doubt that arises in the practice. We can see these hindrances for what they are and acknowledge them as they arise. And we can wake up right there in that moment. And it actually brings joy because we've noticed what's happening in the mind. This desire to wake up. In this lifetime. And we don't avoid difficulties. We just learn the art of making mistakes wakefully, being present when they happen, and let them have the transformative power of our heart available. Jack Kornfield has a statement: when we set out to love, to awaken, and to become free, we're inevitably confronted with our limitations. And as we look into ourselves, we see more clearly our unexamined conflicts and fears, our frailties and confusion. To witness this can be difficult. But we're undertaking the genuine spiritual path, and we don't avoid suffering. We bring our hearts to what's happening now. Sometimes we may notice pain, physical pain arising in the body. And pain isn't just the physical experience, but it's the feeling. The feeling painful is in the mind. So for the very same physical experience, sometimes there may be aversion in the mind towards it. Other times the mind might be equanimous towards it. So we work with the mind to understand how the mind is involved in the process. What is happening in the mind right now? What is the attitude of the mind? Settling in the body, connecting with the breath and with gravity, holding ourselves with kindness, and being attentive with just the right amount of effort to what is arising. How long it lasts, when it passes away, and that we can't grasp it. And we just keep beginning again. Like the two of you mentioned the noise in the airport and the ice machine making noise. It's about the attitude of the mind. It's not somebody or something that makes a loud sound or something that makes us smile. It's just what is happening right now in the mind. And we find interest in what's happening. We have investigation. Awareness allows wisdom to arise. We're finding out firsthand by being present with what is arising and passing away. A true understanding of impermanence, and it's a deep knowing that everything ends. And we see this directly and clearly with each rising and falling of the breath, or each wandering of the mind onto a thought pattern, and waking up to that moment. If we think sometimes that a certain experience is lasting longer than we'd like, we need to observe it more properly, because no two moments are ever the same. Every moment is fresh and every moment is changing. And we just take in the information that we're given and explore. Understanding what is happening brings peace to the mind. And once we understand the preciousness of this process, we can feel joy, gladdening of the mind, and have interest in looking deeper and deeper. We don't need to change the process or change the experience. We just want to be aware, to accept what's happening, and that's how we can learn. That's how awareness can be present and wisdom can investigate. Seeing the true nature of what arises and passes as being impermanent, that we can't hang on to it, that it doesn't really belong to us. And that can bring great joy. We don't need to complain about any of the experiences that we're noticing. We can just appreciate that it can be known. We can appreciate awareness, mindfulness every moment. And it can be quiet and calm and yet alert and interested in what it knows. Sometimes it might be busy and carrying on. That's okay too. And the nature of the mind is that once awareness is present, then understanding whether something is suitable to pay attention to or not, whether it's beneficial or not, then that ability comes along. To say, oh, I don't need to go there. I've been there many times before. I know the outcome. I think I'll let the mind go in this direction. Kindness for myself, compassion for myself, compassion for others, kindness for others. Relax and be aware. And notice when there's greed or hatred or delusion in the mind. We do everything with a mind that lets go. We don't have to try to be aware. We just need to be the supervisor, regularly checking, noticing that mindfulness is there, awareness is there. We keep asking ourselves whether there's awareness, whether mindfulness is there. Things show up in very subtle ways. Sometimes when we experience pain in the body or discomfort in the mind, we can learn how to watch anger, tension, or discomfort in the mind. And we can alternate between checking the feeling of the physical sensation. Maybe you've sat very still and you're noticing some pressure somewhere. And we can notice the attitude behind it, whether we have resistance or not. And we can hold ourselves kindly and with compassion. Sometimes when we observe our own anger, we can really understand the suffering that it always causes us. And it can become easier to feel compassion whenever we're confronted with anger in others. We're learning the cause and effect relationships and realizing the wisdom that helps us interpret and be aware that these cycles of becoming that cause us so much grief and misery repeat themselves. And this is why we do this work, to understand cause and effect. What is the attitude of the mind? How is the heart? The heart and mind are one, chitta, in the Pali language. So we're holding ourselves gently as we see what comes to the fore, what mindfulness is aware of. And in holding ourselves in this kindness, we can think of good things that have been done for us by others, friends, teachers, maybe our parents, our benefactors, our guides. And as we cultivate this kindness, it can develop skillful states of mind and heart, so that it doesn't just happen by accident, but we cultivate loving kindness for ourselves, for a friend, for a teacher. So you might take a moment now to envision someone for whom it's easy to find kindness, holding that person in our hearts. wishing them to be free from harm, safe and protected, have ease in their lives. Just gently saying the word metta, or using a phrase or having a feeling, including this person in our hearts, in this cauldron container of our anchored body and gravity, breath breathing our body and containing this person in our hearts. Letting compassion arise, knowing that sometimes things are difficult for that person and wishing them to find compassion for themselves when things are challenging. Sometimes it helps to put your hand on your heart and remind yourself to settle into your heart. As we envision another friend or a teacher, seeing this person happy and healthy as best we can, having a feeling of kindness in our hearts, to include them. May you have peacefulness and ease in your life. Through these difficult times, may you find happiness. Remember moments of happiness. Celebrate moments of happiness. May you have compassion for yourself as I have compassion for you when things are challenging. May you be free from harm, safe and protected. Knowing just as we have this kindness toward them, they have this kindness toward us. This friend, both of these friends, or this friend and this teacher or benefactor, that this kindness can be a circular affair, our heart generating kindness and receiving kindness and compassion from our friend, from our teacher, generating this kindness in our hearts. A kind of concentration. This single object of attention of kindness, and taking this energy and letting it include a neutral person or neutral people. There may be someone you're not too familiar with in your life that you see. There may be a group of people that have been having difficulty, oppressed or ill, or chased from their homes, or struggling around oppression. Letting kindness flow to this person or this group of people that we've chosen. Knowing just as I wish to be happy, I know that you also wish to be happy. Holding them in our hearts. May you be free from harm, safe and protected. May you have ease and well-being. Whatever phrases come to your mind or whatever feeling in your heart arises, create your own phrase. Maybe it's just a feeling of metta. Allowing this feeling of loving kindness collected from ourselves and our benefactor and our teacher and this neutral person or people, letting this feeling also include our family, our friends, even though there might be some difficult ones there, letting this kindness flow, generating a skillful state of mind, inclining the mind toward kindness and compassion, including our neighbors, letting it flow in all directions from where we are, or drawing in others into our hearts in all directions, from the north and the east, from the south and the west, all directions, everywhere above and below. Creatures that swim and fly and crawl below the oceans and above the earth. May all beings everywhere know happiness and the causes of happiness. Be peaceful and tranquil. Whether known or unknown, as it says in the scriptures, short, tall. I think they use the word stout in some translations. Medium, short, or tall. May all beings everywhere, all females, all males, all non-binary, all those who identify in whatever gender, those enlightened and those unenlightened. May all beings everywhere know happiness, have the causes of happiness, and may this practice of ours benefit all beings, all sentient beings. Anicca vata sankara upadavaya domino upakitawa meruchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things arise and pass away. Seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. All conditioned things, all things arise due to conditions, and seeing these conditions clearly as arising and passing away brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. And just letting your eyes open gently and take in the light from around the room. Have intention as you mindfully reach to put on glasses or drink some water, and take some time to ease yourself back into adding more stimulus of seeing and hearing, tasting and touching, all the senses.